Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Spiritual Handyman. My name is Jason Antelek, and I am your host. And we are here putting spiritual tools into the hands that need them. Today, we are going to be talking with the author, a doctor, that is Anne Kate Sullivan. She's going to be sharing about her book, The Legends of the Grail, and the Heroines of Avalaon. So there's some pretty amazing information. She's going to share parts of her journey with us today. Remind everybody real quick that you can catch us on YouTube every Thursday. Our newest episode pops up at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can also find us at thespiritualhandyman.com. That's also a place where you can support the show. If you'd like to donate, be a guest or a sponsor, those links are available to you. You can follow us and join our group on Facebook and also on Instagram. So take an opportunity to click all the places and find your pathway to the spiritual handyman. And let's get to the guest today. So excited to have been contacted and accepted this invitation to be on the show. Anne Kate Sullivan has got some just amazing information and background on some of the most influential people and legends and the goddesses that are available to us. So Anne, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, I'm Anne Kate Sullivan, and so happy to be on the show. I understand that what you really love the most are stories and little pieces that help us on our quest, on our own personal quest. Is that correct? That's our thread today?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. It sounds great.
All right. So my main passion in life, especially these days, is it's actually Legends of the Grail. It's the Grail quest. And so what is the Grail quest? We have to ask ourselves, what is this thing? You know, are we going in search of a cup? Are we going in search of a woman or goddess? But actually what the Grail is, if you really follow it, it's our own wholeness. It's our own well-being. So when we start the Grail quest, for whatever reason, when we start down this path of discovering our in-world, the magical world that already resides within inside of us, we can't stop. So what happened for me is that, I guess it was 30 years ago now, I was just depressed. And there was no reason for me to be depressed. I was doing my doctorate. I was living this great life in Britain. Something inside of me was just churning. And it took me, I like to call it the hideous damsel within, with the long teeth and the ears, took me on this quest to Glastonbury. And at the Chalice Well, I don't know if you know this place called the Chalice Well. Do you know it?
I don't. Please share.
Okay, so it's this little place in Somerset, which is in the southwestern corner of England. And in the old days, so even up to like the 12th century, even now, it's kind of considered the Jerusalem of Britain. So for some people say 25,000 years, people have gone there. Druids have gone there, Celts have gone there, Christians have gone, all sorts of people have gone to imbue this spiritual energy of the land. There's actually, if you're above it looking down, there's actually a landscape zodiac that you can see. So if you go to the Chalice Well, and it actually sits in the dove in this landscape zodiac. So anyway, on this particular day, I found myself there in this beautiful garden. And if you even begin to think about fairies, you'll know as soon as you enter that garden that they're accompanying you on your shoulders and beside you and helping your wings sprout. It's a very active, beautiful garden. So sitting by this ancient well in deep meditation, I had this encounter with the dark goddess, the dark-faced goddess. And in some traditions, she's Sophia, she can be Mary Magdalene, she can be the hideous damsel. In this case, she was the beautiful lady of Avalaon. And on the Grail quest, when this archetype starts to come into your consciousness, she starts to invite you to find the places in yourself that suffer and to ask questions about it so that you can heal. So it starts this journey. And what happened after that is I really just stayed in meditation. I learned the 8-wheel calendar. I went to many, many places in Ireland and Scotland and Wales and England, where the landscape is alive and there's stories within the land. You can feel on the edge of the sea, the sky, the earth. You can crawl into these cairns and listen to the dreams of the earth. You can put your feet at the edge of the sea and feel the underworld that opens up to you, Tirnaban, Tirnanog. And you can feel the sky guardians too when you're up in the mountains. And so here we are, the quest begins.
That's an amazing space to be in, and it opened up obviously the doors to all different spaces and dimensions and times and so many experiences. Something you touched on in there that kind of went by, the 8-wheel. What is that?
There's an 8-wheel calendar, and there's a lot of debate about it, about the origin of it, how old it is. My feeling is that it's very ancient. And so most of us know the solstices, the winter solstice, the summer solstice, and we know the equinoxes. And these were celebrated for a long time by the ancient people. What we might not know so much is that we know during the summer months that there's fire. We're celebrating fire, we're celebrating the sun, we're celebrating the god Lu, the great fiery god. In the winter months, we're celebrating the goddess. So in that case, generally, we're going to celebrate somebody like the Kaliach, the old woman of the world, right? Who can be sort of in sort of the Judeo-Christian sense, it can seem a little scary, but there's nothing scary in the Celtic tradition, because there's no duality. Everything's accepted. There's just one whole. And so the rhythm of birth, of maturity, of love, union, death, the liminal space, and then rebirth is all built into that 8-wheel calendar. And so we are celebrating the feminine, the masculine, and the joining of the masculine and feminine in the spring and autumn equinox. But then we have the other four of the cross quarters. So we just went through February 1st, which is Imbolc, right?
That's my birthday.
Your birthday!
That's my birthday.
So on your birthday, that's in the old days, that's a bride's day or Bridget's day. Now it's St. Bridget's Day. And in that sense, that's when the dewdrops just start to appear. When we realize that spring, there's the promise of spring, that there's a return of life. So it's a wonderful day to celebrate the goddess. That's usually, we light the flame of Bridget. And then we have another celebration, which is pretty well known, especially in the Glastonbury area, which is May 1st, Beltane. And these days we just tend to go up and dance around a maypole. But in the old days, you would grab somebody and head up the hills and make love. So it was an incredible celebration of union of the god and the goddess coming together and rebirth and life. And then we have August 1st, which is Lunasa, where you're celebrating the harvest, what the earth has given to us. And then we go into Samhain, which is now really we think of it as Halloween now. But in the old sense, you would crawl into the cairns on your belly, and you would listen, sometimes up to 3 days in the darkness. You would be listening to the dreams of the goddess. You'd be in her womb, listening to the potentials, what wanted to be held throughout the ancient years, throughout the ancient time. Well, it can be all time, actually, but also just through the winter months. What's the potential inside of us? What are the dreams throughout the eons and just throughout this particular point in time that we want to be birthed? So it's our personal dreams and it's the collective dreams. Can you imagine if we did that now? Like we went in now, we would like heal the wasteland. We just crawl in, listen to the dreams of the earth.
Well, and when we're open to it, she's going to tell us what we need to know. He's going to show up. The goddess, everybody's going to show up when the time is right. One of the continuing strains of what you've shared today and what I've come across in your book, well, in your books actually, is the oneness. That seems to be one of the main keys to everything. Am I missing the mark on that?
No,
The
no, no.
wholeness, the oneness.
True. I mean, the Celts really like the three and the one. So there are three worlds. There's the underworld, which is not a hell realm in the Judeo-Christian sense. The underworld is where we get in touch with the fairies, right? There's the human world, and then there's the upper worlds, where you get in touch with your guardians and so forth. And then the thing that surrounds all of it is, in the Welsh Bardic, is called Sigant. And that just means the infinite, boundless. It's everything. So you're just held by the one, by this just incredible intelligence that understands life, and it understands how all things flow. And that's a good thing to be in touch with.
I'm going to go with yes on that. It's very much parallel to Native American tradition and to a lot of shamanic practice, which is obviously not just Native American, that there are the three worlds. There's
Yep.
the under, the middle, and the upper worlds. And then, of course, there is always the wholeness, the oneness of everything brought all together. So that's powerful information that is coming from multiple sources. And you've backed that up in many different ways in the stories in your books. So you actually traveled around in the spaces where some of these legends came to be, right? And really connected with that. Was that part of your journey?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was talking about Avalaon, or Glastonbury, the gateway to Avalaon. So in Heroines of Avalaon, some of the stories take place there. So we have these are the most recent stories, which are between the 5th century and the 12th century. But these are the Grail maidens, and how they actually, if you know Grail legend, we're going back into Arthurian times here. But the first person to achieve the Holy Grail, which in this case was a cup, the first person to achieve it and open the gates to the other worlds for the other knights, was a woman named Dendrana. And people tend to forget that there was actually this wonderful Grail knight who did this. So her story is in there. But yes, I stood in some of these spots, also walked through Wales. And so in Heroines of Avalaon, there are two fabulous goddesses. One is named Erenrud, and another Blwydaiwydd. And their stories are well known throughout Wales. But if you go and stand in some of these places, you can feel in the landscape, you feel their messages, you can still feel their presence. So that I felt Erenrud, particularly in the Snowdonia area. Then you can go out to Anglesey, which is an island off the coast of Wales. And you can feel in some of these places where it was a Druid training ground at one point. It was called Mona. And you can still go to a lot of these cairns and go into the cairns and sit and tap into those time periods. And so that's basically what I did to write the stories. Also, quite a lot of the stories come from Ireland, from the west of Ireland. And the pilgrimage sites to the old woman of the world, who's also known as the Cailleach, are very powerful places where you can go and really get to know your eternal self.
That when I was reading through the book, because when I got it, my beloved took away with it right away because she was very interested in the subject matter. But when I got the opportunity to crack it open myself, that was almost immediately where I went, was to the Cailleach. And I'm glad you said the word a couple times so I could say it. But there's been a lot in my world right now where I'm reconnecting kind of with the dark spaces. and by dark I don't mean evil, obviously. I just mean the shadow spaces, right? And you're really talking about embracing those times and those places. Like you're talking about the dark faced goddess, and Kaliak, who can show up as a maiden, or she can show up as you referred to as the hideous, the hag. She really can be in lots of different forms, and that connecting to the land seems to be one of the common themes in all of this. So what is it, for those of us who can't travel to a place like that, how do we do that where we are? What is that like? What does that feel like?
We can actually, if we're really tapped into our in world, if we can meditate and visualize, we can tap in from any place at any time. So it is powerful to go to the places, in case anybody wants to go. But yes, and at the end of each chapter in the book, there are meditations and ways to tap in. One really great way to tap in is through a tree. And the Druids were called Druids because they were the people of the tree, of the oaks, so they would use the oak tree to travel through to the other world, the in world. But in the book, I have studied the Ogham, the ancient Ogham. It looks like Ogham, but it's pronounced Ogham. And it's the old alphabet. Do you know this old alphabet called the Ogham?
I'm familiar through your work, yes.
So it's called the language of the trees. And so each tree will take you into a different realm. That's a beautiful way to do it. For you, what might be interesting too is that in the old Celtic tradition, a man could not be a king. He could not really serve unless his beloved, the goddess of sovereignty, came and appointed him that title. And so it's very important for the goddess of the land to invite the masculine to partner with her so that all things flourish. Because when that doesn't happen, do you know what we get?
Imbalance.
Yeah.
I get in a lot of trouble. That's what happens.
Exactly. Exactly. It's called the wasteland.
I'm clearly not where I'm supposed to be.
So it's very important for this to be able to happen. So for the women, we need to be able to understand all of our elements and how we access them, so we can stick our toes in the sea and learn how to connect with the fairy folk and the underground worlds, Tunanog, Tunaban, right? Avalaon, Avalon's through the sea. We need to be able to go into the earth, to crawl on our bellies, to listen to the dreams of the earth. And we need to be able to go into the mountains and listen to the sky beings, to thread our energy with the energy of the stars, so that we understand time and how all things turn. And when we're whole in that sense, when we come back down with our own little fiery inner joyous spark, then we're ready for relationship, and if our beloved has done the same thing, gosh, it can be really fun.
That does make for a good time, as long as I've been told it's okay.
Exactly.
That was one of the things that really stood out to me in your work, is that there's so many different possibilities. It's almost like you could just open a page and that is where you can connect in that moment. And you're including the pieces and parts that are, what animals or plants or spaces, geographical or mental or physical, what is the meditation to connect with them, and to really spend time with that energy and really find what works for you and what gets that, like you said, inner spark going, and the empowerment that comes from that, and opening up a whole channel that's different than what other people are bringing to the surface. Everybody hears about the angels or the ascended masters, and you've got these gods and goddesses that are present in mythology for thousands and thousands of years, even before mythology was a word, right?
It's interesting when you said it, because you see how these energies transform. So let's say we have, we're working, some of the gods of the underworld, which would be the in-world in the Celtic tradition, um, like Gwyneth Neath, who actually is said to reside beneath the Tor in Glastonbury. He transforms into Saint Michael, you know. So Anu, who's an ancient goddess, transforms into Saint Anne. And then we have, so you'll see the transformation. So if we're tapping into an angel and we go and we take it backwards, we might very well find ourselves with the more ancient aspect of the being. But what's really interesting is that these archetypes, thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, it makes, I mean, we only exist here for a very short period of time, you know, and we're tapping into these huge archetypal energies. They enjoy being honored. And when you can tap into those energies, I feel we're at that point, the more we can tap in, the more we can personally be in touch with our own presence, with our own, the Sagant, so our own infinite wisdom, the better off we are really in this particular time of change. If we are really stepping in, supposedly the golden age starts in 2025. So if we're going to step into this brand new, beautiful period of time, we want to step in with all of our tools, with everything intact. So we want to know at least one guide who's with us. Better, you know, maybe you want more. But if you read through the books, some people ask me sometimes who my favorite one is, and I love all of them, but I particularly love Anu, or Anya, because she's my namesake. And she's a solar goddess. And in the old days, you would climb up the hills and at summer solstice, and you would light her nipples, and as a thank you to all of the great abundance that you would bring, so that she was bringing to the earth. So her breasts would be full of life. So she was known as the goddess of brilliancy, because she would shine her own light. She didn't necessarily need anybody else's light to shine in her own way. So, but anyway, you can go through each one of these, and you might find, you know, there's a warrior goddess named Skayach. There's some very sweet goddesses like Emer and Care, and there are others in here too. The Grail, wonderful Grail maidens. And so these are all archetypes that we can tap into, learn about, and actually walk with. Because once we really learn what our totem animals are, what elements we are working with, we can start to open up this. We think of it as an imaginal world, but it's probably more real than we are, right? So we're consciously dreaming with the dreams of reality, and we need guides, we need our totems to enter those worlds safely. So that's actually one of the things we have to do too. But it's wonderful to suddenly find yourself in this animated, enchanted world of which we are a part, and of which we're an important part, each one of us playing our role, being the precious pearl in this moment.
And I definitely experienced that reading through your books and reading through the different, you know, just so many different things. There's the Knights Templar is in one, the goddesses all in another, and the possibilities of how to connect in that, and it all brought up feelings. Like, it brought up resonance, it brought up that connection, and it was almost like a longing in a way to reconnect with that information and connect with that part of the world. And I wonder how many of us, you know, are going to wake up to, like you said, in the golden age, to realize that we've walked those paths before, and that awakening and being comfortable in that space again, and being in that wholeness is really what's going to usher in the new age.
I think it really could, you know, and I do think it's important to have your guides, because we're in a tricky time period. We're in the time period of the wasteland, And I mean, the wasteland's exciting, but if let's say, for instance, you're Percival and you want to achieve the Holy Grail, you have to go to this place where there's a spinning glass castle, and you have to, at the right moment, jump into the middle of it and to find what you seek. And so your timing has to be accurate. Your guidance has to be impeccable. So, you know, in our connection to all the elements, like you said, the indigenous, you know, all the indigenous people seem to hold this wisdom. And so the Grail quest, I think, is the predominant society, the predominant myth in Western civilization. So it is in us all in some way. And to connect to it, to understand that it's ancient, that it's real, and to be inspired by it. Because once Percival makes it into the spinning castle, of course, what he experiences is joy. You know, he's arrived, he finds his joy. And I do believe that's what happens as we gather our diamonds and our pearls on our quest, is that we realize that our true nature, our essential nature, is actually that of joy, of essential wisdom, of beauty. Yeah.
That's beautifully stated, and I agree wholeheartedly that when you find all the pieces and parts and you finally put them together, that's when everything kind of gels up, and then you go, oh, okay, I'm good where I'm at. Even when I thought I wasn't good where I was at, I was just kind of getting the pieces together. So here we are. So it's beautiful. I would urge people to go out and find the books. I know you're going to share with us how we can acquire them. And there's so many different things to connect with, and so many opportunities to reconnect with ancient knowledge in your books. I love that you say that the search for the Grail, while it has taken on many forms, is really about the joy and the happiness and that wholeness. We keep coming back to that, but it's so very powerful. So where can people find more information about you and the things you do? Where can they get the books? What's the best path for that?
So it's pretty easy. My name is Anne Kate Sullivan. So it's AYN, Kate, CATES, Sullivan, AnnKateSullivan.com, and everything's on there. You can find all the books. You can find contacts. I have an events page. So if people are interested in doing personal sessions or quests, or need more information, or they're writing their own folk tales and fairy tales, they can get in touch with me there. And the books, Legends of the Grail and Heroines of Avalaon and Other Tales, can be found Amazon, Barnes & Noble, just about any bookstore. And so I hope that you'll enjoy it. I hope that you'll be in touch and enjoy this great time as we collect our energies and head full tilt into the golden age.
I love it. I love it. Full tilt. That's perfect. As an ex-jouster, I can connect with that too. And an ex-Knight Templar apparently too, because since I've been reading your books, I've had numerous dreams and experiences where I was wearing the big red cross as a Knights Templar, or in the days of Horus. I'm not sure quite which yet, but thank you for opening that door. So I will include in the description of the video all of the information that was just shared. So the website, contacts, where you can get the books, links to that, all that stuff will be available to everyone. And Ain, I want to say thank you so much for what you're bringing to the world and for sharing it so openly and really opening that breadth of knowledge that hasn't been so accessible, and making it so easy for people to connect with, and for taking the time to be on the show and really share it with people in person.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun, and great luck with your quest.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We did have some laughs today. I always love it when we get good laughs. So I want to thank everybody for participating in the community, for watching and or listening. And remember that you can catch fresh episodes of The Spiritual Handyman every Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on YouTube. You can also check out the website at thespiritualhandyman.com. That's also where you can support the show. If you'd like to be a guest or a sponsor, you can follow those links and fill out those forms as well. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram. And be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, and get involved in the community. It's all about putting the spiritual tools into the hands that need them. And we will see you in the next episode.
The Spiritual Handyman, bringing spiritual tools to the hands of the people who need them. Sponsored by the Eagle Heart Foundation. The Eagle Heart Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that brings charitable contributions and educational enhancements to the people. So how can you be a part of the Spiritual Handyman and the Eagle Heart Foundation? The Triple Win Situation. This book was written by Granddaughter Crow, and half of the proceeds go to the Eagle Heart Foundation, which in turn sponsors the Spiritual Handyman. How to get it one? It's on Amazon and Kindle for only $9.99. So we are here to bring tools to you. Thank you so much, Spiritual Handyman. We believe in what you do.